Welcome to week 5 of the SEC breakdown. I'm Marquis Munson with Tide 1029 100.9, the home of Alabama sports, and I'm here joined by producer James Hardy as we break down week 5 of the SEC. James, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Ready to close out the month of September with another game weekend ahead of us.
And we're going to break down the first game, that is Vanderbilt versus number 21 Florida. Florida escaped a victory from the Kentucky Wildcats last week. Vanderbilt not so much escaped anything. 59-0, they lost to Alabama in Nashville. James, who do you have in this SEC East matchup?
You know, I kind of do like Florida in this one at home. As you mentioned, taking a victory from the jaws of defeat. And Vanderbilt came back down to earth, shall we say, last weekend up in Nashville with the Alabama Crimson Tide just steamrolling through the Commodores. Don't be surprised if this goes down to the wire, though, just with Florida's lack of consistency on offense, but still with their defense, I still like Florida to pull it out.
Yeah, this Florida team is starting to look like the Auburn team with Nick Marshall, and they're just escaping these close games and figuring out how to win these close games. So I'm actually going to go with Florida as well. Florida's at home this weekend. I think Vanderbilt had a lot of their soul taken off them from Alabama, so I'm going to go with the Florida Gators in this one. Now we have New Mexico State versus Arkansas. Who do you have in that game?
New Mexico State, perennially, at least over the last several years, is one of the worst teams in the FBS. I like Arkansas to get a much-needed victory.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Arkansas on this one. It's pretty simple. The Arkansas Razorbacks, they haven't looked, fairly well this season so far, but I think they get the momentum against a team like New Mexico State. Now let's move on. Number 7, Georgia at Tennessee. Who do you have in that game, James?
This could be a more interesting ball game than maybe some would predict. Tennessee, Butch Jones kind of has his back against the wall, especially after a lackluster win against winless UMass last week. I like Georgia to win, but I like Tennessee to cover that point spread.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a competitive game. And the way I saw Georgia play against Mississippi State last week, it was incredible. They have a ton of talent on offense and as well as on that defensive side of the ball. And the way they were able to kind of contain Nick Fitzpatrick in that game. I'm going to go with the Georgia Bulldogs in this one. Although Tennessee's going to keep it competitive, Georgia, I think, is the best team in the SEC East currently. So I'm going to go with the Georgia Bulldogs in that. Now we have Eastern Michigan versus Kentucky. This is not basketball, this is football. Who do you have in that game, James?
I still like Kentucky, albeit they came off of a heartbreaking loss that they practically gave away in the fourth quarter with a 2-score lead, but still, I like Kentucky to bounce back and get a W.
I'm actually going to go with Kentucky as well. I want to talk about Kentucky basketball, but then we're going to just save that for future videos. But the Kentucky Wildcats are shocking me as far as their football play is concerned. And they had a good season. They had a competitive game against Florida last week. I think they can still contend in the SEC East, and I think this will be the game to kind of get them back in that momentum. So I'm going to go with Kentucky in that one. Number 24, the Mississippi State Bulldogs travel to Auburn, Alabama to face the Auburn Tigers, number 13 in the nation. James, who do you have in that one?
I tell you, Auburn went into Starkville and absolutely just ran up and down the field of Mississippi State last year, but almost over the last decade, this has been one of the more underrated series in the Southeastern Conference. I expect another one to go down to the wire. And I tell you, I like Mississippi State to bounce back after a humbling defeat at Georgia and get a road victory at Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Yeah, Nick Fitzpatrick's facing another tough defense in this Auburn team, but I just don't think Auburn has enough on the offensive side of the ball. Haven't seen enough from Jarrett Stidham yet to determine whether or not he can be the quarterback to move Auburn forward in this SEC conference, so I'm actually going to go with the Mississippi State Bulldogs as well. We have another game, the Troy in Alabama, was not in Alabama, but another Alabama team, and that is the Troy Trojans going up against number 25 LSU Tigers. Who do you have in that game, James?
I think LSU needs to be careful here. It's been, in fact, in 2008, Troy had something like a 3-score lead. I think it was a 21-point lead in the second half in that 2008 season, only to see LSU come back and pull out a last-second victory. I could see this one going into the fourth quarter, but LSU, just with better athletes and more depth, pulls it out.
And I agree with you 100% on the athleticism and the depth as well, especially at the running back position. And their defenses still have a ton of talent every year. I'm going to go with LSU in this one. They've been on a slippery slope all season long. You know, they started off pretty hot, and we thought this was going to be the team in the SEC West to kind of compete with an Alabama, but they've kind of declined since then. So maybe they can use another team outside of the conference to kind of get their momentum going. I'm going to go with the LSU Tigers in this one. And the final game we'll break down, South Carolina Gamecocks going up against Texas A&M. Who do you have in that last game, James?
South Carolina having their best player hurt's going to hurt them, especially from a special teams standpoint. Texas A&M coming off of a big win for Kevin Sumlin in the Jerry Dome last weekend against Arkansas. They've got the momentum, and I like Texas A&M to come back home and get the W.
I'm actually going to go with South Carolina in this one. I think South Carolina is one of those sleeper teams, and I know I mentioned that last week as well. I think South Carolina is a good team all around, and Texas A&M is just on a slow decline to Kevin Sumlin's departure possibly. And even though this game is at College Station, I'm still going to go with the South Carolina coming off with a tough road victory. It's going to be a close game, but I'm going to go with South Carolina in that one. We're not going to break down the Ole Miss Alabama, so if you want to look for that, check us out at Tide1029.com for the staff predictions. You can check out Ryan Fowler, Travis Ryer, Wimp and Barry Sanderson, also Martin Houston, Gary Harris, and the whales of the producers here, and Ben George as well. So if you want to look at those predictions, go on Tide1029.com. Also, make sure you download that Tide 1029 app at the Apple Store and Google Play. So make sure you check us out there. We're the home of Alabama sports. This is week 5 of the SEC. We'll see how it plans out. Thank you guys for tuning in. For Marquis, Munson, James Hardy, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.